Hey everyone, it's Ryan Fowler here with my good friend Tim Costello. Inner Game Group episode number 7777. So today we have something that just really emphasizes what we do, how absolutely freaking foundational it is. Getting your core identity right. Number one regret of dying people turns out is inauthenticity and not being true to themselves, not expressing their feelings, living their true life. You're going to hear about all of it. It's be a great one. Comedian Theo interviewing Dr. Gabor Mate, one of the world-class, world-leading luminaries, and that's why he gets on such big shows such as Theo show, who's one of the top comedy podcasters, but he also does some serious interviews, and Theo has some very interesting things to say too. So that's going to be great. We're going to dive in. But before we do that, Tim, welcome to the show. Introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. I'm Tim Costello with TimCostelloHypnosis.com. And Ryan, before we get rolling here, I'd recommend that we watch this thing all the way through. It's only like 6 or 7 minutes. And then we'll get the flavor of it because they do jump around. And then we'll come back from the beginning because right off the bat, it starts with lots of meat and potatoes. And it really will help to explain to people what you don't want to miss out on in life.
Yeah.
So I'd say we do that. Anyway, I do what Ryan does. I help people clear their childhood trauma so they can become their authentic selves, or even more clearly,
confidently
you can become your authentic self. Because that's all that really matters is when you become authentic to yourself.
Yeah. And we really we use hypnosis, which is one of the two, if not the best methodology for rewiring your subconscious. It probably actually is the best. Guided psychedelics can be helpful, but there's some drawbacks and things you need to be concerned about with them, but they're up. It can be up there. We rewire core identity. And what core identity is your belief in your ability and value. And who you are. And I've shown clips of me 15 years ago, and people are like, dude, you're way different. And that's why Tim became a hypnotherapist. He wasn't with me for several years. We used to, a long time ago, we worked together. We had a lot of fun together. Didn't see me for several years. And in the meantime, I found this stuff.
Self-hypnosis.
My core identity was self-hypnosis, mostly self-hypnosis, as more 90% of the benefit from self-hypnosis. He met me again. He's like, what the hell happened to you? You're different, like in a good way. And I told him. Then he was so powerful, became a hypnotherapist, did it for his wife. Now his wife tripled her income. Honestly, we see that all the time. It's not a guarantee for anyone, but we see all the time people double, triple. We've had people 10x their income. It's not the only measure of your value, but it happens when people embrace who they really are and feel good about who they really are. So this is going to be, and if you don't do that, it will likely be the number one regret on your deathbed. We have some very interesting conversations today between Dr. Gabor Mate, world-class physician who also very much understands the subconscious mind, childhood trauma. That's one of the biggest things he talks about. So let's dive into the clip, and good recommendation, Tim. We'll watch the whole thing and then we'll comment on it. Do you have anything to add before we dive in?
No. I mean, this, like you said, I'm going to say no. I have nothing to add. You said it all.
Yeah.
Let's just jump in.
This is foundational. The number one thing people regret on their deathbed. Check this out. It kind of blew my mind when he said what he said. We got to dive in.
There was a study done in Australia. Wow. At least I used to work in palliative care as a doctor looking after dying people. In Australia, there was a palliative care nurse who wrote a book called The Top 5 Regrets of Dying People. These were people that were dying before their time, like I used to look after, of cancer or chronic neurological illness. You know what the top regret of dying people was? That they didn't have the courage to be themselves. And the third top regret was that they didn't have the courage to express their emotions. They pretended to be happy when they were not, and so on. So the question for the rest of us is, do we want to wait till some terminal illness wakes us up? Or should we just confront the fact that in so many ways we're afraid to be authentic because we're so afraid of being rejected. And as children, we didn't have much choice. As adults, can we develop that freedom to be ourselves?
Wow. Yeah, it's like, it's amazing what your feelings or your heart or your mind will like want you to do sometimes, but then this other smoke comes in, that feels stronger sometimes, and it almost clouds that feeling away.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it does.
Yeah, it's funny. A few years ago, I thought it's like, I'm kind of a late bloomer. Like I only realized that, like I go to recovery meetings and stuff like that. I'm in AA, and I only realized a few years ago, it started to hit me like, did I even want to be a comedian? Or did I just at some early point develop having to get attention?
Yeah.
Because I need, and then, so if that's the case, then who did I really want it? What would I have been if I didn't do that? And not saying that I'm not grateful and I don't love being a comedian. It's been a blessing, but it's like, if I created that, okay, I have to be this thing for you to see me. Then who created that? Like was there a different me that was supposed to be there, but then I created this new me?
That's the dilemma for so many of us, is that as a result of childhood wounding, we have to make ourselves into something that the world will accept and value. Look, in my case, I love having been a physician, and that's my calling. But the big part of it wasn't just that I wanted to help humanity or heal people. It's also I needed to be important. Now, why did I need to be important? Because as an infant, I got the message that I wasn't.
Yeah.
And so now then, and that creates a kind of an addiction, because you have to keep proving to yourself how important you are and how valuable you are. But nobody should have to prove how valuable they are. That's just our birthright, that we exist. We have the right to be here.
It's funny, people say a figment of your imagination. That's almost what I was sometimes. I felt like I was something that my mind or that my soul or whatever had created to best face.
Persona.
Yes.
Did you ever read Pinocchio as a kid?
Oh, yeah. Geppetto, dude.
Yeah. Now, do you remember when Pinocchio becomes a real boy and he looks at his puppet self and he says, I was so foolish when I was a puppet. But we're all so foolish when we're puppets. We're not stupid.
Right.
But we're unaware.
Yeah.
Yeah,
unaware. Sometimes, like, I always feel like I have to explain my intentions. There's a part of me that always feels like I'm manipulating somebody. Do you know what I'm talking about?
That's not a feeling.
So what is it? It's a thought?
It's a belief.
It's a belief.
Yeah. No. And there's a reason why you have it.
Like, even if I'm just doing something nice, there's a part of me that's like, oh, you're...
Yeah, you think you're fake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called the imposter syndrome.
Okay.
And it has to do with the fact that you couldn't be real as a kid. In some ways, you had to pretend. And it's really hard to let go of that sense that I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
It's what you grew up with. So you could be kind to that part of yourself.
Okay.
The part that you could actually, because it's not a feeling, Theo, it's a belief. And the beliefs can be, you don't argue with feelings, but beliefs you can challenge. Is it really true that you're manipulating? Like when you're talking to me now, are we having a genuine conversation?
I believe that we are.
Or is it true that you're actually manipulating me in any way at all?
No, I don't think I am.
And furthermore, give me some credit. Maybe you can't manipulate me even if you wanted to. So
that's very fair, dude.
So that fear of yours is both a lack of compassion towards yourself and a lack of, in a sense, trust in the other person's capacity to look after themselves.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, it's just funny. I was just talking with my brother yesterday because we had similar childhoods, and we were thinking of, well, what are some things that I could think about to talk with him about? And we were talking about that sometimes we always feel like there's something we're manipulating ourselves, or that our ability to manipulate would be so powerful that we wouldn't even know what we're doing, which is pretty crazy too.
It's a lack of self-trust.
Lack of self-trust.
Now, you know what? Have I manipulated? Yes, I have.
Yeah, sure.
You know, but
Same.
it's not a question that one never does it. But I know when I'm manipulating.
Right.
And usually it's because I want something that I don't know how to state directly, or I'm afraid I might not get otherwise, you know, and then I'm afraid to show up with my vulnerable request.
Which would make sense as a child. There was something you wanted that you didn't think you were going to get otherwise.
That's
so
right.
you didn't show it. So
yeah.
Makes sense.
Children manipulate out of a sense of weakness. And that's pretty much all they can do if otherwise they don't get their needs met.
Bingo. So this is so, I mean, obviously it's clipped, so they put all the fat stuff together, which is really awesome. But we probably need to probably get about a minute in, because they're just sort of saying hello at that point. But that was the first significant thing he talks about, was the dying people's regrets. These are not dying people's wishes, they're regrets, which essentially could be turned into a wish if you could reverse yourself 50, 60 years. And I hope all of us get the opportunity to have a deathbed for some time for introspection and you know, looking back at our lives and things like that, rather than just leaving so instantly, which I'm not sure which is better. I'm not making a choice. But what do you think, Ryan? Let's just take it there.
Well, there's a lot to chew on here. And in the past, we have done shows on authenticity, and we had a clip. I just queued it up again. We'll play it in a little bit, of a Harvard former monk who became a Harvard trained psychiatrist. Dr. K, Healthy Gamer GG is his YouTube channel. Very popular, like over 2 million subscribers, talking about how the number one thing people look for in a leader, if you have this, along with the ability to solve tough problems, then people look up to you as a leader. Authenticity.
Right.
And it's what we do. The number one psychological trauma plaguing mankind is toxic shame. I'm not good enough. Who I really am is in some way defective or falling short or inadequate or bad or wrong or creepy or disgusting or just whatever. Not acceptable, not good enough. The opposite of that is authenticity. The real authenticity is the real me is the best part of me. I'm good enough already. The real me is already good enough. I don't need to do or say anything to be good enough. I can just be myself. That is good enough. That's acceptable. And furthermore, my flaws don't make me not good enough. My flaws make me human. Welcome to the human race, right?
Yep.
If you get these deep belief systems in your core, then you just go through life living it as the authentic you, and people look to you as a leader, and also they trust you more because you're not being fake. You're not needing to manipulate others. You're just, you do you. But as children, we learn to put up these defenses because we're taught that the real us isn't acceptable. And there is a lot about being a child that may work as a child behaviorally that doesn't work as an adult, but our subconscious mind is formed in childhood, and then it just sticks with us unless we rewire it and make these core foundational changes, which is exactly what we do. So he was talking about imposter syndrome here, you know, which is tied to I can't be the real me. I can't be the real me to get what I want. Now you're manipulating other people to get what you want. The real me is unacceptable. Now you adopt a persona. You become someone you're not, and you feel like a fraud. And then you have imposter syndrome. And the irony of that is we may learn we need to do that as children, but that actually holds us back as adults. It keeps us from being perceived as a type of person that others want to be with, others want to be around, others want to follow and trust. it causes all sorts of issues. Like all of this toxic shame leads people to want to cover that pain, hide that pain, run away from it. Narcissism at its core is the real me isn't good enough. I have to be something I'm not. And so they create this. It's narcissism is really an extreme example of imposter syndrome. So they project this false self to the world, this very charismatic or bigger than life, or not. It may not be bigger in life for women. It may be they spend a ton of time becoming extremely attractive and fit and all of that. For guys, maybe it's, this baller leader or whatever. But it's not how they really feel about themselves, and they're not being authentic to themselves. And then they have to do all this stuff to kind of keep their toxic shame at bay. And that's where they emotionally bully others in order to feel not insignificant, to feel powerful, to not have narcissistic. They get their narcissistic supply. So they keep their toxic shame at bay and can kind of bury it and avoid it and feel okay. And so there is just people being inauthentic. It causes so many problems. And then at the end of the day, on your deathbed, it's the number one regret. I wasn't true to myself. I wasn't the real me. I didn't express who I really was. I lived my life being someone I'm not. Damn, I literally have people ask me, why'd you move to Mexico City? And I literally tell them, because 30 years from now, I don't want to be on my deathbed wondering what would have been and having regret.
That's right.
Let's try it out. And I came here and I like it. Maybe in a couple years I'll move somewhere else. But for right now, it's pretty awesome. I might stay for a long time.
Yeah. So to add to what Ryan said, I would imagine that a narcissist on their deathbed, knowing that there is limited time left, that now the guard starts to come down because they're just about ready to escape the prison they've been in their whole life of creating this thing that doesn't really exist, but they have to put that out to the world. I would imagine there's a tremendous bit of relief to say, oh, crap, this is almost over. I'm just about out of here, and I don't have to put on this tremendous face. And now they start probably looking inward a little bit at that point, trying to realize what it is they've missed.
Well, they got tons of shame in words.
Absolutely.
And the reality is, as narcissists get older, they tend to get more and more ignored by people, or they've driven the people away already with their narcissistic behavior. And so narcissists, they tend to get more miserable as they get older. Their behavior may become somewhat less.
You went in a different direction. Direction. I'm talking about the narcissist that has 5 days to live.
Yeah.
And they know that they're probably not going to make it to Sunday, right?
Yeah.
That
maybe they just let go of their persona.
That facade is probably going to start melting away because they might be alone. The only person around them might be that person providing some palliative care. And that's how this person could actually start talking to people. Normal people would regret some of the things we're talking about, but a heavy duty narcissist, full-blown NPD, likely is starting to realize that they've wasted their life because they can see the end. There's almost a release. There's probably almost like I'm just about out of this crap, right? This was tough. This was rough, because they are tremendously damaged people. And to Ryan's point, that's why they put on the facade. That's why. And what's really weird is the facade isn't what people want. It's what they think people want.
That's the great irony.
They have very little experience in the world to know what people want. So they're just making this thing up. Like, here's what I want to be.
Yeah. And the reason we call toxic shame and the other four traumatic subconscious types of subconscious traumatic beliefs, the reason we call them false core belief is because the belief really is bullshit. Because the truth is, when you believe you're good enough just for who you are, and that because you matter, what you want matters, what we want is core to our identity. And you may go after something you think you want, and then find out you don't really want it. Well, now you've learned something, and now you get closer to what you really want. So, you know, that's a path of self-discovery that everyone should absolutely take. But when you are able to express yourself authentically, the good, the bad, the ugly, you know, go after what you really want, live a life that's true to yourself. Not only are you going to be on your deathbed without regret, but I would say with a certain amount of satisfaction that you lived a life of purpose and meaning for you. And when people really go after what they want, they tend to do some awesome stuff.
Absolutely.
Because that's, you know, people do all, like, you know, go after drugs and all that other stuff to hide up the pain. What's the pain? Well, I'm not good enough. That's at the root. I mean, read the book Healing the Shame That Binds You. Alcoholic Became a Psychotherapist, one of the best-selling books of its type of all time. It was written in 1988, still sells 13,000 copies a year.
Yep.
And he's like, the shame is at the root of dysfunctional families and addiction and all this other stuff, this toxic shame. It is the opposite of authenticity. Authenticity is tied to I'm enough as I am. I don't need to do or say anything to be good enough. So that means I can be myself. The real me is the best part of me. Now you go after what you want, but you're not going after what you want to be good enough. If you're going after what you want to be good enough, you may not be going after what you want. You may be going after what you think you need to accomplish in order to be good enough. And that's what Theo Von was talking about. He's like, I'm not even sure I want to be a comedian. I mean, it was really great, but did I become a comedian just to get validation? And he mentioned that in the clip, if you remember that, Tim.
Absolutely. You know, so the question is, we're going to talk about this authenticity in a moment and how to achieve it. But where is it that you become inauthentic? Well, it's not something that you do. It's something that's a product of what's fostered inside your mind as you're growing up. And Ryan said this 100 times, if not 1,000, that when you're born, you come into this world and you really don't know a lot. You have some instinct. Some of the instincts are, I'm hungry, who's going to feed me? I'm cold, who's going to keep me warm? I'm a human being, I don't want to be loved, and I really would like to belong to a group of people, right? Or a pack of something. So if those things aren't fostered and developed by the people that you're looking up to, and generally that is your parents in most cases, it could be a different type of set of parents. Could be a single mom. It could be a single dad. It could be your grandparents. It could be an aunt. Whatever the case may be, you're going to look up to somebody for that fostering. If you don't get that fostering of great achievement with, like, you can do anything you want. You're good enough. You can play with that. You can experiment. You can fail. All this kind of stuff, right? It's amazing that when that is planted in the subconscious of the person, that person now gets to be able to find their authentic self. If the opposite is true and they get yelled at a lot, they get beat a lot, they're sexually molested, whatever the case may be, they could
just be criticized.
Verbal abuse. You can't do anything right. You're a big dummy. I mean, it goes, all the cliche things that go on are out there thick as thieves, destroying children. And then by the time they get to 10, 12, 11, 13 years old, they have no idea who they are, what they're doing. So what do? They start living in a figment. And a figment means, Theo Von used that term, and it means that you're just grabbing these things that you think exist and you're creating this existence for yourself. Again, never finding your authenticity. And that's how you have to operate, because you are surviving. You're not thriving.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about. It's that very first foundational belief deep down in yourself that you develop from wherever you're growing up.
Yeah. Now I agree with everything you said. And to add to that, I'm going to drop like a big truth bomb right now, a big secret of the universe. Everyone is trying to fit in with the group. The truth is, when you are the real you become the group others want to fit in with.
Yep.
And instead of trying to fit in with others, if you are authentic, others will try and fit in with you. And I have a clip to show exactly what I mean.
Let's do it.
This is a Dr. Clay. I played this clip before, but this clip is just absolute gold, and we probably it needs to be played several times on this show. Check this out. Harvard trained former monk, Harvard trained psychiatrist on Diary of a CEO with over 8 million subscribers. He's on this huge show because he's one of the top guys in this field. Here we go. Listen to what he says.
Don't understand. Everyone is trying to manipulate other human beings into doing what you want. I want this person to fall in love with me. If
you're trying to fit in or get them to accept you.
You see a girl or you see a man or you see a group that you want to belong to. He's talking about the things that you do to get them to do something.
Now, authentic people never manipulate. What happens instead? Here we go.
If you want to be a leader, if you want other people to be with you, the most important thing is authenticity. There's studies about this, that if you look at like how people in the workplace rank leadership, authenticity is at the top of the list. So authenticity and the ability to navigate negative challenges. These are the two most important things to like be a leader, if you look at studies of psychology.
Okay, so here's what we are working on, the really, really core stuff. We really are, guys. We're working on the stuff where if you adopt this, you're going to have a great life and you're going to have just all sorts of opportunities open up. So if you believe you are enough as you are, the real you is the best part of you. Your flaws don't make you not good enough. It just makes you human so you can be comfortable with your flaws. Now you are authentic. You don't need to manipulate others to fit in or get validation or be good enough. You already are. So now you're authentic. And when you go after what you want, the natural byproduct is you will develop problem-solving skills. Because you are moving forward, you're going after what you want. And as you do that, you learn and grow. And when things stand in your path, if you believe in your ability, if you believe, hey, I have a right to go after what I want, and the more I do anything, the better I get at it until I get what I want. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to solve this. When you have these core self-beliefs we're talking about, you're going to be on your path. You're going to be going after what you want. You're going to be overcoming, and you're going to be completely authentic, and people look to you as a leader. You become the group they want to fit in. Think about that. And then you're not on your deathbed in 30 years regretting your life. You have led a life of fulfillment, purpose, and meaning, going after what you want the most, being true to yourself. And what happens is this is where people really advance the human race. Do you think Elon Musk is going after what he truly wants or what someone else wants just to be good enough? What do you think?
What he wants. Does what he wants.
He's doing exactly what he wants. How big of an impact is he making on the world? And he
doesn't care what you think about what he wants.
Yeah, there's a famous Elon Musk go F yourself clip to
the advertisers.
Disney, now, Bob Iger.
Here's a perfect example of what Dr. K is talking about. When you become your authentic self, people don't know. I mean, they don't walk around going, hey, he's really authentic.
It's all subconscious. They're just
right. So what
getting
they
the vibe
do is,
and going with it.
What they do is they observe your actions. They observe your body language. They observe all the micro expressions that you have in your face, in your voice. And here's a perfect example. I showed up at an Amazon facility. It wasn't open yet. We were the team that was going to open it. And we had a couple of leaders amongst that group, right, that were already Amazon people, and there was a bunch of us new people. So there's about 110 or 115 salaried managers that are learning how to run this Amazon building. And there were one general manager, one assistant general manager, and then 4 senior operations managers. And these senior operations managers were essentially running the building for the GM. 3 of them were pretty authentic people. 2 guys, 1 girl. People like to work with them. They like to be with them. They like to do whatever they needed to do to make these people look good, be happy, whatever, because they were supportive and they were authentic people. There was one, however, that was not authentic, tremendously insecure, tremendously never shut his mouth. He just kept going and going and going and going. And that person eventually got promoted. And there were many people that were afraid of this person and feared this person and stayed away from this person as much as they possibly could, because they could tell there was a lack of authenticity there. Now, they didn't use those words, but they gravitated away from that person. And of course, that person became senior, so people now have to be around that person. But the other three people, other people gravitated towards. And you heard the managers mumble amongst themselves, all the L6 and L5 and L4 managers, when they got assigned to a shift that was led by that operations manager or a department, there was this, oh God. Right? I mean, life was going to be rough for the next 3 or 4 months, right? You just knew it. So nobody used the words authenticity, inauthenticity, insecure, nothing like that. It was just a natural progression. They didn't want to be in his pack.
Yeah, we call this just our subconscious mind observing all this stuff about other people, micro expressions. All, you know, our conscious mind notices some stuff, but our subconscious notices a lot more. And then giving us just a vibe like, oh man, this person's cool. I like them. There's something about them I like. Good vibe, bad vibe, man, there's something shady about this guy. That guy's a loser, whatever. We call that the empathic neural pathways. That's the part of our brain that just picks all this stuff up and gives us a vibe about other people. By the way, Tim and I have been discussing, I've done sessions for about half a dozen salespeople, all of them like double their sales or more. Jordan, I wish Jordan was here. He recently did a session for a guy who was struggling with sales, 10x his sales. And it's because if you become authentically confident and confidently authentic, other people trust you more. They look to you as a lead. If you're the leader, they're going to buy what you tell them to buy.
And there's another byproduct. Because you're authentic with yourself, you now believe in your ability. You know your worth. You procrastinate less and have less toxic anxiety.
Yeah, because if I fail, I'm still good enough. So I don't need to deal with the pain of failing. I'm just going to do it.
In fact, one of the funniest things I hear, and we'll make this not political, but we'll talk about President Trump. One of the monikers that all of the liberal media like to throw out there is failed businessman. Okay? They think that's a term that is bad. And in reality, Kevin O'Leary says, I want the guy that failed a lot.
Yeah.
Before I get involved with them, I want them to fail a lot. So if
those are the people he invests in.
Right. If I opened up 1,000 businesses, I could promise you not 1,000 businesses will survive or be successful. I'm going to have some failures.
I've had 4 and 2 have failed.
Right. So
that's what it is. The other 2 are kicking ass. It's all good.
Right. Donald Trump is not a failed businessman. He is a person
who happens to
live in the business world. And as he's come up with ideas, some of those ideas have failed. So what has he learned? He's learned what he doesn't succeed at. So go do something else, which he is tremendously successful, including running for president 2 out of 3 times.
Now I want to just get back. I got another clip here about empathic neural pathways.
Absolutely. Yep.
And how when you're authentic or when you feel good about yourself or bad or whatever, imposter syndrome, whatever, people do pick up on it. And so here we go. Here's again, Harvard-trained psychiatrist, Dr. K. Here we go.
So this is what a lot of people don't understand. Everyone's focused on productivity. But the single most important thing that will determine your future is your sense of who you are. And that's not like some, spiritual, get connected with you. This is like fucking science.
I love how he makes fun of his own culture, but anyways.
Right? If you believe you are a loser, the empathic circuits of other people's brains will detect that in you, and they will treat you like a loser.
That's what we're talking about. None of what we're talking about is blowing smoke up anyone's ass. It's all backed by science. You know,
we're not burning incense and singing Kumbaya. This is 100% scientific.
And we get massive results routinely with our clients, huge results. 1 session, 2 sessions, 3 sessions, very big results. And you can even do it for yourself because we have our free community on the school platform. Right down there, see the banner also right there. Ryan Fowler, school.com/RyanFowlerSOS-7231. There is a self-hypnosis course on there, absolutely free, and a community you can interact with. I do webinars when I have time. I did some last month, none yet this month. I'll get one done this month. But it's all free. And you can actually take the self-hypnosis course for free, start reprogramming your core so that you can become authentic, and then other people notice how people treat you better. Because people, I've been through that. Tim, you've always been authentic, but you know your wife had struggles. We fixed the struggles and just massive up leveling. I'm certain, if not every aspect, many aspects of her life are just doing, not just her business, doing way better.
Absolutely.
But,
absolutely. You know, I got an
honor and pleasure to help people like that.
Yep. I got an example. Well, I just had a recent client, young fella, sales guy, porn addiction, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things that he felt like he had to do was entertain everybody when he was in a crowd. He had to be the jokester, et cetera, et cetera. Literally within hours of our session, he sent me an email. He went out to a party that night and he was with some girls that he had liked previously, and he felt he didn't have to tell a joke to get their attention. And he said, they're gravitating towards me now.
Yep. I noticed that exact change in me.
Yeah, he is becoming more authentic and less trying to manipulate the crowd. And when you become that way, and he's got a long way to go, but just within a few hours of our session, he's already having the success he was looking for because he's not burdened by that thing that was inside him. Now, we're peeling the onion, got some more stuff to do, but the giant one is gone.
Nice.
And he just says, I cannot believe the difference. He's taking this new big sales certification course. He's going to smoke sales like there's no tomorrow.
You get much more attractive members of the opposite sex, much more interested in you when you adopt. So these empathic circuits, the doctors talk, if you deep down feel like you're a loser, and then everybody you're wondering why women are like, why can't I find a good man? Or men are like, man, I'm struggling, and all these girls, and they may get mad at the opposite sex for not being able to find a good person, an attractive person for a good romantic, relationship. And but if you change your inner world, you don't have to chase after them. They'll start chasing after you.
Yeah, let me correct only one thing you said, Ryan, and not correct, maybe redirect a little bit.
Sure.
Because I don't want to correct you because you're so freaking smart. But Ryan uses the word attractive a lot. Look at me, right? I am no Tom Selleck. I'd love to be Tom Selleck. I think that would be cool, right? But being authentic, I was able to attract a partner for life and eternity.
You have a great relationship.
Right. Yeah. So it's I want to just change one word, not attract an attractive person, but attract an authentic person. Because I can tell you that authenticity is a lot deeper than looks.
Yeah, but I didn't say good looking. I said attractive. You said
attractive. Right. Most
you're people you're not attracted to your wife?
I am, but most people will think that means good looking. And I just want to make that distinction that authenticity is more important than physical attractiveness.
Yeah. I just recently counseled a guy who he is in his early 30s and he's a virgin, and he's like, I'll only get with a girl if she's at least an 8.5 out of 10.
Yep.
And
because that'll validate him.
Among other things. But and I'm telling him, and by the way, being in Mexico City, it is not hard at all to get a date with a girl who's an 8.5 in Mexico City. And I do it all the freaking time. I've had girls who were like maybe 7s, attractive. And I dated them for a while because their personality was so awesome.
Yep.
And I'm trying to tell this guy, listen, man, I told him a few things. Number one, if you're not going after, girls who, they take care of themselves, they're, they don't, they take care of their body, they're well groomed, they're likable. So I'm not talking about, people who don't take care of themselves. Again, it's up to you. It's really going after what you want.
That's it.
If you don't matter, if someone's hygiene is a little poor and you don't care, okay, good.
Right.
Go for it. Go after what you want. But with that said, I said, listen, I understand if you don't want to go after a girl who's like out of shape and poor hygiene and all that stuff.
Yep.
But if you don't go after the girls, really nice personalities, take care of themselves, they have their crap together, but they're not an 8.5. They don't have that natural beauty, although they are attractive. I said two things. Number one, you're never going to get enough practice to get the really attractive girls in there. And I also told him, I said, listen, once you're able to routinely date women that attractive, you realize it's really not that big of a deal. And there's downsides with some of these women, not all, but some of them being that attractive, there's downsides to it. They get entitled, and again, I'm speaking globally because I know in the United States, there's a lot of women who are not 8.5s who are entitled. But again, there's a lot of great women in the US too. But a lot of very attractive women tend to be very high maintenance, tend to be very demanding, tend to not treat men with respect because they can get
they're not authentic
and get away with it because they're so attractive.
They're not authentic. They're as damaged as
a lot of them are inauthentic because a lot of these attractive women, what happened is as a kid, they're like, I'm not good enough. How can I get validation? I know I'm going to go to the gym and do yoga and, spend all this time on beauty and makeup and all this stuff and become super attractive. And then they get tons of validation, but they're doing that because of how crappy they feel inside.
Correct.
As compensation. Exhibit A, Marilyn Monroe. There's just watch a documentary about her. There was, I guess there was a Netflix show, went into her childhood, abandoned as a child. Her mom had schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder, something like that. So she was raised in an orphanage and she'd in her crib cry for hours and hours. No one would come to the crib. She developed the belief no one wants or loves me. Well, geez, if you can become extremely beautiful as a woman and get all this constant validation, the validation only temporarily helps. But if you keep getting it over and over and over, that's a pretty good cure for your toxic shame, at least temporarily. And so you will get a lot of very insecure women trying very hard to become very attractive for that reason and then becoming very attractive. And so, again, not all women who are very attractive are like this, but you will notice a concentration of toxic women who are also very attractive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, we'll leave this.
Not all, though.
We'll leave this statement right here. Nobody's as good looking to Mr. Frog as Mrs. Frog.
Yeah. All right. All right.
Let's get back to that clip because we're just about out of time, and man, we haven't hardly even touched it.
Kind of. Well, the first clip is completely done. Do you want to go back to certain parts of it?
I want to talk about so if you are struggling, right? Because this is the whole crux of the show. If you are struggling with your authenticity, number one, you may not know what that struggle is, but that struggle is manifest in anxiety, depression, addiction, procrastination, which may lead from all three of those.
Could be anger too.
Anger could be mad or could be overworking.
You're blaming the outside world for these internal problems, and honestly, it could be stuff that happened to you as a kid with bullies and abusive parents, or again, maybe they didn't mean to be abusive, but for whatever reason, they treated you a certain way. You adopted these beliefs and now struggle with toxic shame. So you're angry at them.
So whatever it is that isn't thrusting you forward and allowing you to thrive. And by thrive, I mean being authentic. If you want to be authentic and be the best master gardener of tomato growing in the world, then that's your deal. That's what you'll become, and that's what you want to do. More power to you. Keep on rolling. But if you're not there and you're just making stuff up and trying to manipulate and move people around to get them to do things for you, sympathetically, maybe strong arming, bullying, whatever, you've got some issues with your subconscious programming. We are here to help you and to use a scientific process by allowing your brain to now change those subconscious programs.
Rapid change.
Right.
Rapid deep change.
And how do we do that? It's called super neuroplasticity. This is the science of how your brain changes, right? And we're talking the subconscious mind.
And neuroscientists know you can do it. They've done the research. Right. The mainstream universities aren't teaching it, probably because if they did, then the pharmaceutical industry would lose 90% of its business in the mental health area.
Right. And I would say that your super neuroplasticity series is probably what, 150 minutes long, maybe?
Oh, maybe not that long. Maybe like maybe 100.
Okay, so 100 minutes long. Ryan has broken this
in
down,
the video
collected
section.
Clips from around the internet to show what happens in your brain for it to change and change permanently. Right?
And rapidly. And it's mostly Dr. Andrew Huberman,
right.
But there's others in that
we
series.
got the rapid down, but it's permanent. In other words, the people that we work with, they struggle. 3.5 hours later, when we're through our first session with them, they now have been rewired, cleared the trauma that was bothering them, and they're immediately moving forward. And we say rapid, it's not like, gee, in 2 weeks, you're going to lose 5 pounds. It's like
immediate.
In a 4 or 5 hour session, you're walking out the Zoom door a whole different person as far as your subconscious programming goes. Now, there are a number of ways that you can do this. And Dr. What's his name from Stanford?
Andrew Huberman.
Yeah, Andrew Huberman.
And there's David Robert Spiegel too.
Yeah, he talks about the number of things or the things that have to happen in your brain in order for it to rewire. Ryan
does it for you.
Yeah,
shows you how to do it.
Ryan breaks those down in that super neuroplasticity playlist on this channel.
And
so
then
you can watch that.
Actually shows you how to do it.
Hang on, Ryan. So you can watch that so that you understand the science. Ryan has worked hard to put this together and make it flow nice and logically. Now, once you understand that and you are sort of understood, like, hey, I get this, right? Then you go to that school.com/RyanFowlerSOS 7231, and there is the program that facilitates this super neuroplasticity. And I would say 100% of the people in this world can use that program and will gain benefit. But I would also say that a lot of the people, and I don't know what percentages, but probably 80% maybe, will need our help because there's something too complex, too deep. You may not understand how to identify it, etc. But that's what we're here for. So if everybody in the world used that RyanFowlerSOS 7231 information that's there, then guess what? We have a few customers that we're going to help deeper, but everybody will have benefited. So it's a super logical process. Understand what we're doing, understand how to do it, and then reach out for help because that's what we're here for. And that's why we're busy doing sessions every week because 1,000 people will use it and 7 need help.
Yeah. So once you guys join, just click on the classroom button at the top, then take the SOS free course. And you're on the way, and you can always DM me there if you have any questions. Tim, you're on there too.
Yes,
and
sir.
So I think that's kind of what we had today.
It is. It's awesome stuff. It's nuclear powered.
It is, and we've done it for hundreds and hundreds of people.
Right.
We're not stopping. It's going to get bigger and bigger.
Now there are 2 other ways. Let's talk quickly because people go, "Well, I got EMDR, or I got ayahuasca, whatever." There
EMDR
are 2
can
other
work.
ways.
So there
are 2 other ways that allow you to rewire your brain to an extent. Neither one of them have all 5 things involved in purely scientifically changing your brain, right? EMDR is one of them, and that's what is it?
Eye movement,
eye movement desensitization and
desensitization,
reprogramming or
reprocessing. Yeah.
Right? That one is pretty good, but you have to have a very good practitioner, and not all 5 things that need to exist for a solid, rapid, permanent changing of your subconscious brain exist in that method. So you're going to get some benefit.
The 5 things are awareness of what's in your subconscious that needs to change, epinephrine release, which you can drink a cup of coffee and get epinephrine release. It's adrenaline, but they call it epinephrine in your brain. But also intense emotionality, it releases it. And when you connect to your trauma, that you feel that emotionality. So you get the epinephrine. Number 3 is acetylcholine, which is tied to focusing on the subconscious belief system and / or emotion. So the focus, and then telling it to change. And then number 5, non-sleep, deep rest. Those are the 5 components.
So those are the 5 things that have to happen per Andrew Huberman, David Siegel.
That's what the science
all
says.
From Stanford, right? That's the scientific method of changing your brain. Not all of those exist in EMDR. So EMDR can be
it could if it's guided, like a guided psychedelic session can do that if the person knows what they're doing. Yeah.
So EMDR can be effective, but not as rapid and not as effective deeply, because they don't talk about your subconscious. They just say, remember this traumatic event. So you're actually remembering the event. The interesting thing about what Ryan and I do, we don't need to know about the event. We only need to know how you feel about the event.
What is the belief and feeling tied to it? And we program that.
Because
knowing
that's
the
what
event is an aid, but it's not necessary.
Correct. Now, and generally people become comfortable enough with us that they want to tell us anyway. And it's not important, but it's good. I mean, it doesn't hurt, right? It's a little therapeutic.
I've had people molested and they don't want to go back to that memory. We still clear it.
Correct.
We still clear it because we know the belief that they're struggling with that arose from that. That's the trauma.
That's absolutely. Now, the other one is psychedelics. Here in the U.S., ketamine is legal in some places in a therapeutic setting.
And Matthew Perry died of it. You can OD on it.
That's right. Yeah, Matthew.
Addictive.
He got somewhere.
It can be very helpful. But
you can go to Central America and you can have a ayahuasca, event and experience and stuff like that. And all of those do some things to make you feel better, to relieve a little bit of the trauma, but they never do clear it 100% deep down in your subconscious forever. And it's not rapid. It takes a freaking week. I mean,
well, it kind of depends. There are instances where people have massive benefit in one day from psychedelics. That does happen.
Yep.
Yeah,
but it's not the general result.
I think the thing is we're intentional.
Right.
We're actually intentionally finding the trauma and going in like a surgeon and removing it with intention.
Yeah. So what we help you do, and this is what this RyanFowlerSOS 7231 does, it helps you actually identify the trauma, not the tragic event that caused the trauma, but the trauma. Because
get that out of you.
The trauma is not the event. The trauma is how you feel about that event. And that's right from Dr. Gabor Mate. So again,
and what you believe as a result.
That's right. And what the resulting belief is. Got it. So 100%. Get to that super neuroplasticity playlist. It's 4 videos, 100 minutes. All of a sudden, you're a lot understanding about how this works. Then get to the school.com link, sign up, download all that stuff for free. It's not like we're asking for your birthday or anything like that. It's just fully accessible, 100% accessible.
Yeah.
And then when you do that and you have a little bit of success and you get stuck, that's what we're here for.
All right. So thank you for that fire, Tim.
Hello,
the new next. Welcome to the show. Welcome to everyone else. So that's our show for today. Authenticity. Hey, P-Dubs, happy birthday, my man.
Happy birthday.
So, Get rid of that toxic shame, that imposter syndrome, replace it with belief in your ability and value, your intrinsic value, that the real you is the best part of you, that having flaws does not make you not good enough. It makes you human. Welcome to the human race. You're flawed just like everyone else. That should build connection.
Yep.
Geez, I'm just like everyone else. Great. Now you can have authentic connection. You're flawed, they're flawed. And when people talk about vulnerability, that's what they mean. You're not hiding your flaws. That's all it is. But
Great
you're not
question.
really vulnerable. I hate the word vulnerability. You're not really vulnerable. You're just authentic about the fact that you're imperfect.
That's right. Good question from the new next there. Check out that last comment, Ryan.
Yeah, okay.
Right above B-dubs. Really good question.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, the thing about dreams is what happens is we go through the day in the world and we're encountering all this stuff. And then at nighttime, our brain is taking all these experiences and it's categorizing them. It's putting it in different parts of the brain and it's processing kind of, okay, what does everything mean that happened today? And you know, is there anything here to learn, etc. So our subconscious mind works a whole lot just through kind of symbolic interpretation and analogy. So what happens is, as children, this is going to connect to dreams, I promise. As children, we form these beliefs based on what happens to us in the world as a kid. And these beliefs are kind of almost kind of like templates. They get buried in our subconscious. And then as an adult, we go through the world. And if there's something that is the pattern of something happening in the outside world is a match for that belief, the belief gets triggered. But it's not, the belief in us it's not like the memory in childhood played out identically as an adult. Now you get triggered. Your brain is saying, well, this is a match for what happened in my childhood for that belief. So it's kind of, connecting the dots. It's not an exact match, but it's like the fact patterns and match. This is a match for the belief in me. So our brain uses a lot of, when it's processing what things mean, it's using a lot of symbolic imagery. This is a match for that. So for example, if I am in a car and the brakes don't work, I'm out of control. That's a match for the fact that I feel out of control in my day-to-day life, and I therefore may have a dream where my brain is connecting those dots and drawing that conclusion. And I have a dream and I've literally had this dream in times past. I'm in a car, the brakes don't work, I'm out of control. That's happened for me when I've just had so much work and so much demand, and it's like, well, number one, I can't slow down because I'd be screwed if I was. And number two, I'm not having as much control over my life as I'd like. And then I have that dream. My brakes aren't working. So our brain naturally works in that way to use symbolic imagery and allegory and, analogy and all of that to draw connections between different instances and different beliefs we have and how that applies to the outside world. So we dream that way oftentimes. That's where the whole dream interpretation comes in. Dream interpretation is giving us insights into what is in our subconscious and how our subconscious is looking at things. So targeted therapeutic approaches, in hypnosis, we use symbolic imagery because our subconscious naturally understands that. That's what I've been talking about this whole time, is understands. But I don't use dream interpretation to figure out what's in your subconscious. I think there's much simpler ways to do it. I think dream interpretation does have some uncertainty in it because you're guessing what that dream means. You may not 100% know. You may not. Yeah,
Let me throw something in there.
Yeah.
So for dream interpretation, who is interpreting your dream? And are you
that's the thing.
able?
What
Are
is
you
the correct
able?
interpretation? Yeah.
Are you able, while you're awake, to fully explain all the things in that dream? Because remember, your subconscious is processing things 1,000 times more than
At
your
least.
conscious brain.
Yeah, at
So
least.
when you're trying to relate what you think this dream looked like, then there's a person receiving that information, trying to figure out based upon their experience and their knowledge what that means. There could be a big miss or there could be a right on target. Who knows? But
Yeah.
what's more key, like Ryan said, is to figure out what you're struggling with, which are that Ryan Fowler SOS 7231 process does.
It shows you how to find out what's in
Identify
your
that
subconscious.
particular thing, because it's an interesting thing. I don't dream, or if I do dream, I don't remember any of them. I'm
Yeah.
out. I'm solidly out. And if I dream once or twice a year, I can't even remember the dream, right? I go, oh yeah, I dreamed. And 20 minutes later, I can't even recall what the heck it was about. So, you know, it's a hit and miss. It's not scientific. It's just guessing. But what's key is, what are you struggling with? Let's dive into that struggle to figure out how you feel about yourself through the 5 different levels or 5 different types of subconscious trauma. And then it's very possible, by targeting that with hypnotherapy being a therapeutic approach, then we can identify it, clear it, reprogram it, and then all of a sudden you don't dream about that anymore.
Yeah, 100%. Dreams can be a good starting point. Man, I had this dream. It really affected me. We can use that as a starting point, but to really, when we write out what's in your subconscious, we're writing out the exact belief in detail. Probably end up being like a eighth to a quarter page, exactly what that belief is. So if a dream catches your attention, let's look at that as a starting point. But then that's not going to give us enough detail to really go in and clear bad subconscious programs at the level we want to do it at. So it's just a starting point. Okay, let's start with that, but then let's have that segue into the techniques to figure out what's really going on with you that made you have that dream.
And remember,
so it's a good starting point, though.
When we're doing this, just as you do it when you go to Ryan Fowler SOS 7231, is that you're going to start diving down into what you struggle with, and it will trigger you. And by just changing a couple of words in the statement that we identify, it could trigger you to an 8 or 9, or it could trigger you to a 4. So we really have to refine what it is you're struggling with, ask a lot of questions, and tweak that statement out. So when we go into hypnotism, you're going to trigger, and you're going to trigger correctly. And that's what we're going to clear. I mean, the last couple of people I had,
and that's 100%. There's no guesswork.
That's right.
You're triggered. We know we're on the right path.
That's
we know
right.
We got it down.
This one fellow that I did probably in the last 2 months, he was triggered to a 7 or an 8 outside of hypnosis. When we got into hypnosis,
like a 10.
He was triggered to a 10 or more. And we didn't need to ramp it up because he was literally sobbing out loud and convulsing in the chair. But man, we went in there and ripped it out.
That's how connected we get you.
5 minutes later, I read that statement back to him.
He felt nothing, right?
It's a 1. Let's go back in and clear the rest out, right? We're going to get that down as far as we possibly can. And then when I read it to him again, 10 minutes later, nothing, man. There's nothing there.
Yeah. And and that's freaking awesome, Tim. And we do that all the time. I literally had a session where the guy's subconscious belief, it was a type of self-disgust. It got so strong that he started dry heaving in the session, like convulsing.
Yep.
And we cleared it. And at the end of the session, the same belief, we write it down and read it out in the session. It made him convulse before. Now I read it to him at the end of the session, same day, just an hour later. And I read the exact same thing to him. And instead of convulsing, he's like, man, whoever that applies to, I feel sorry for them.
That's right.
And I'm like, that was you. And he's like, well, it may have been me, but I don't apply that to me anymore.
You don't
I feel
identify
sorry for
who
I feel sorry for who believes that. I don't believe that.
But you literally no longer identify in the subconscious to that belief anymore.
Hey, Nigel, if you're on the community, just send me a DM with your question about
Nigel,
allowing you to level up. Tell me what's going on. You can DM me on my Ryan Fowler SOS platform on school.
Good
DM
deal.
me, we'll figure it out for you.
Fun
All right.
show, Ryan. Fun show.
All right, man. So thank you, Tim. Great insights today. Some great videos. Onward and upward. This stuff is great. Try it out for free. Change your life. I mean, we are changing lives. So guys, it's worth it. Do it. That's our show for today. Thank you for watching. Thanks for all your great comments and questions and participation, audience. And, you know, you can do this, man, because you really do have more power than you know. You can get that authenticity and just watch everything change. It's freaking awesome. So that's our show. Take care.